I'm Giselle Tongi Walters.
And I'm Maruth Dumalaog.
And we're representing FilAm Arts. We're here at Tribal Cafe to have a conversation about arts and culture in hi-fi. Come on. Tribal Cafe.
We're here. You know what's super cool about this place though is that back in the day, there used to be open mics where artists could express themselves, do spoken word, you know, like all kinds of stuff.
So Alison Cruz and Fran Deleon are going to be talking about theater and arts here in historic Filipino town.
Oh, cool. I can't wait to hear what they have to say. Enjoy.
Cheers. Here's to Tribal Cafe.
Thank you. I'm Alison Dela Cruz, and I want to say welcome to my friend and guest, Fran Deleon. I'm so excited we're going to get a chance to have this beautiful conversation today. Here in historic Filipino town at Tribal Cafe, which has been a critical place for arts and culture in hi-fi. Certainly myself and several other DJs used to spend a lot of time here. I know open mics have happened here. I was telling you a story about I did a monologue in this room once, connected to Giants in the Sky from the musical Into the Woods.
I love that.
And I know we had met, I think we figured out in the 90s. I worked at Pomona College at the time, and you had come and brought your play Faces of America. And so I remember we met and it was like, oh my gosh, she's Filipino. Hi, I'm Filipino too.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and kind of in the same work, you know, of being arts and being, you know, involved with social justice. That was so exciting to meet someone in an educational institution, because I've been touring the country and meeting tons of people, but to actually meet FilAm and here, and the fact that we didn't know each other, which is crazy, you know, and about as crazy as the fact that I didn't really know a whole lot about hi-fi. In fact, I think I heard hi-fi from you. That was the first. I was like, oh, okay. That's what we call historic Filipino sound. But yeah, you know, because as you said, I was one of those people who was like a drive-through, like, let's go get our food, let's go to the bakery, let's go to Betsy's, right? Yeah. And so it wasn't until, I guess, I don't know how many decades ago, I don't know how to count years anymore, but not until my adult life that I knew how deeply rooted in community and the arts historic Filipino town is.
Definitely. And I feel like we reconnected around 2004 when you were in the LA premiere production of Jessica Hagedorn's Dog Eaters, produced, I believe, by Playwrights Arena and SIPA, Search to Involve Filipino Americans, directed by John Lawrence Rivera. And you were in that company. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to make that piece of not only American theater, but specifically Filipino American theater in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing about it, right? Is that it actually was happening here in the Filipino community, the Filipino American community. And as I said, I wasn't really familiar with the area the way you are. And I wasn't even familiar with FilAm actors. I walked into that rehearsal room across the street from Search to Involve Filipino Americans, and an entire room filled with almost all Filipino American actors. And it felt like I arrived home. And I felt like I was with my cousins. And just that immediate connection with each other I've never experienced anything like it. It really was once in a lifetime productions. We're still all in touch. We're still really close to each other. We still work with each other as much as we can. And then doing it at SIPA, who had built this space to create theater, to be able to provide more artistic experiences, you know, to this community and the broader audience as well, was really special.
And yeah, just to see that it was born here in historic Filipino town, that we had this predominantly Filipino American cast, to see it go to mainstream theater space here in Los Angeles was a super powerful experience. And then I remember, like, I got to host a post-show conversation with the Dog Eaters cast, which is how I met the director, John. And then years later, in 2009, John cast us in the Filipino-American play Ruby Tragically Rotund by Bonnie Alvarez. And we had a chance to connect and bond even deeper as castmates and friends. And at the time I was living here in historic Filipino town, not too far from SIPA, on the property of Dulce Cappadocia and her family, which is a deep performing arts Filipino dance family here in historic Filipino town. And I just think about those times in terms of like connecting as Filipino-American artists. And certainly you as an actor, a director, a producer, we have to tell an authentic story, but we don't get to not be persistent in our pursuit of our work and our craft. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, as a director, like how do you, or as an artist, like how do you find projects? I know like you were telling me a little bit about walking through the neighborhood.
Yeah, well, I feel like projects find me, and I've just learned to listen to what stories want to be told. And one of the practices that I've started doing is whatever piece I'm working on is to stop for a moment and ask the ancestors permission to tell these stories, because they're not mine. I mean, I'm connected to them, but I want to make sure that I'm telling the right story, the story that they want to be told. And one of the stories that came to me was when I was creating a movement piece for Grand Park, and it was the theme was origins, and so I wanted to do the origin of historic Filipino town because I didn't know it myself, so I wanted to learn. And I stumbled upon the monument to the Filipino-American World War II veterans called Valor, and it remembered, my dad was a guerrilla soldier, and he fought. And in my head, that's how we moved here, was from him gaining citizenship, which he was not given because all of the benefits and all the promises that were made to the FilAm vets were rescinded 2 years after the war ended. So I decided I wanted to focus on that story. I wanted to make that movement piece about it. And so I created a short film, a documentary about the vets. And that was kind of the second phase. And now going into the third phase of expanding that even more. It just really, I let the project find me in a sense, and just being open to that.
And I appreciate that, like, that's what you're doing right now. And it just makes me think about how, we're in 2021. In 2012, we had an opportunity to create a new work called Smoke and Mirrors that we got to also premiere here in historic Filipino town. And conceptually for me, it was a play that was trying to look at this history of this American town, historic Filipino town, and the history of Filipino-American farm workers and the dance halls and hi-fi that used to exist, and the mix of folks. And so, and then for me as a queer Filipino-American, it was like, how do I also see myself in these stories? And so having this opportunity to collaborate with you as the director was just such a gift. I wonder if you want to talk a little bit about, for our audience, about what our 2012 was like with Smoke and Mirrors. And
we, again, projects finding us, right? I feel like I opened an envelope and it was like a reveal of like, you're working with Alison de la Cruz. And in my head, that's how it worked. And I loved your concept where you said, film noir, taxi dance hall, and transgender. And to be able to put that on, and at first you go, how does that all match together, set in like, the 30s? And I think in collaborating and really just talking about it, I think we made something really special that is, to this day, one of my favorite projects.
And so just to see that restaurant and that fam has survived, that tribal has survived, like there are these places where Filipino-American theater can thrive, even though we don't necessarily have a Filipino-American theater yet here in historic Filipino
And that
town.
is missing in LA. I mean, come on, there really should be a Filipino-American theater.
Yeah. If we were to write a love letter to historic Filipino town, what might it be?
It would be like a thank you letter for reminding me of who I am, and reminding me that there is home, and that it's easy to find. You just got to look.
My love letter is hi-fi is a place that is home that I have to keep coming back to. And this Love Letter project reminds me that it is a place that births Filipino-American artists and plays and theater in cafes, in social service agencies, on sidewalks in front of our restaurants, that we are allowed to be the full diversity of what it means and complexity to be Filipino-American in this moment and tell our stories through this wonderful craft that is theater.
Yeah.
So,
and even like with or without a building, we're crafty, man.
We
will figure it out. We'll find a place to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, thank you for all you do.